Yeah. So, Santosh, can you make us live?
We are live now. Uh, Sonam, can you see? We are
We
live
are.
now. Yeah.
Okay, we are. Okay. Welcome back. Hope you are enjoying the virtual session and utilizing your time well while interacting with our fellow attendees in the social lounge. Now, let's welcome Mr. Saket Modi, co founder and CEO of Lucidius, for a keynote session. Thank you, Saket, for joining us today. Over to you now.
Thank you so much, Sonam. Thank you, Mohita. Thank you, Rama ma'am, Vinayak, Atul, everybody for having me here. It's truly an honor. With the kind of speakers that you've got since morning, including Rajan, who's been my angel investor for a while now. And it's truly heartening to see the startup ecosystem in India really evolving. So in incredible work being done by DSEI. Please keep it up. I think as startups, we need all the support we can in marrying the investors and the startups and the great ideas. And frankly, it's a win-win on both. So I'm going to start now. I'm going to make sure I stick to my time, which is 10 minutes of presentations and 5 minutes of Q&A. I will start sharing my screen. Sonam, please let me know once you can see it.
Sure, I can see your screen.
Perfect. Okay. So my session, I like this title, which was really given by my Copcom leader. It says, cybersecurity from bits and bytes to dollars and cents. This is a very interesting, thing, especially because I remember in one of my investor meetings, one of my investors said that, Saket, you're obsessed with your product, and remember, you're not building a product, you're building a business. And historically, and he gave me a lot of examples of how a lot of very, very large companies. In fact, I remember the example he gave was Sybase versus Oracle, and how Oracle was really not as good of a product as Sybase, but the execution, the sales force, all of that really triumphed Sybase, and Sybase is no more, but Oracle is Oracle now. And the reason I bring that up is not because you don't need a good product, but then I think I'm an engineer myself. I like calling myself a geek and a nerd. A lot of times we get super obsessed with the product, which we should. But on the other side, enterprise B2B sales, and I have no experience of consumer, so I cannot speak about it. But enterprise B2B sales is, I would say, if not more, but equally as much about the enterprise sales that you do than just the product, the messaging, the way you communicate to the customers, the problems you're trying to solve, and frankly, even the relationship that you carry with the customers all play very, very handy and very, very important. I'm going to exit my full screen just so that I can, jump between the slides and things around that. My startup is called Lucidus. The product that we have is called Safe. We recently won the Morgan Stanley CTO Innovation Award, and we were number one out of 2,000 startups that Morgan Stanley looked at. This was 4 months back. We like saying this: in a zero trust world, we measure trust. I'm pretty sure everybody knows about the concept of zero trust, and frankly, the world, any good matured CISO who's an enabler of the business around the world really is looking at how do you implement zero trust. And if most of you know zero trust, you can never get to zero trust. You can always tend towards zero trust, and that's where my product comes into the picture. However, today, and this is a rare exception, I'm not going to talk too much about the product. I'm going to talk about the journey of what made me come to the product, or what made the startup come to the product. We are Series A funded. We've raised $14 million. We were founded in 2012, incubated from IIT Bombay. The average growth that we've seen has been triple digit year on year for the last few years. We are headquartered in Palo Alto. I recently moved there last year, 6 months back, and things around that. Our vision statement is securing digital. Our mission statement is
Sorry, Saket, can you make it full screen, please?
okay. You're not being able to see it. Okay.
Yes.
Can you see it full screen now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, fantastic. Our mission statement is really to become the global de facto industry standard to measure and mitigate cyber risks. So we are a cyber risk quantification startup. We feel that one of the biggest problems that the world is facing today is there are a lot of cybersecurity tools, but they don't know once you implement the cybersecurity tool, the likelihood of being attacked how much does that come down? And that's a problem at the boardroom, at the CEO of any large company, because they really don't know the ROI of any effort, any money, any time or resources they put into cybersecurity. And that's why I think cybersecurity is one of the most need a lot of funding. The reason why you need more customers is because they like more. They would like to be sold through great salespeople who can maintain the relationships or go ahead and actually provide a great product. Again, both of that is a people problem. So I love this line. It really bifurcates the signal from the noise. It's all about the people. How do you know how happy people are there, right? I mean, one of the best ways and most smart people who get recruited now is look at your Glassdoor reviews. I am going to my Glassdoor page that you can see. It's 4.3 out of 5 stars with
Saket, we
150.
cannot see your screen.
Oh, you can't see my screen. Okay, I thought it's screen
Can
sharing
you
is on.
share it again?
Again. Okay. All right. Just give me a second. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, fantastic. So I was talking about Glassdoor reviews, and I was talking about how very proudly we have 4.3 out of 5 stars with 115 reviews. And the reason I'm saying that to you is, how do you know that the people who are working with you are really happy? Not only do you take in the best kind of people, but once they are in, what do you do, frankly, to make sure that they feel that they are treated very, very fairly, and at the same time do everything possible to enable them to outperform beyond what their potential is. My headcount has been going up. We are close to 200 people now. This has been the story for the last 8 years since we started in 2012. The one of the core things about the company that I feel is very, very undervalued, especially when you have a tech startup, is the core values that really bind together the smartest or the best of the people. If you really look at companies like a Google or a Cisco or some of the best companies in the world, it's really how close they are to their core values. At least they try their level best to be, which really binds together and keeps people together in terms of even tough times. And it's really the challenging times which actually show you how good you are, or the real test of the value and the commitment you have to those value statements which are there. Again, talking a little bit, going from people to actually the funding piece, because most of you guys would be interested in knowing about that. I have, of course, we have a angel investment that we raised in 2017, and in 2019 is when we raised our Series A investment. Series A was actually led by John Chambers in our case. He's been very, very kind, not just by investing money into us, but also on an average spending anywhere between an hour to hour and a half on an average on a weekly basis for the last few years. So starting from setting the tone, the culture, doing the final interviews of the people who I'm hiring, and at the same time being one of the most sound advisory board that I could ever get. And the reason I bring that up is because I'm a first-time entrepreneur. I'm a 29-year-old CEO, and this is my first job. It has a lot of advantages, like I am very, very hands-on in technology. I can jump between continents every week, very high on energy, etc., etc. But the challenge that comes from a first-time entrepreneur, I have not seen how companies scale. I don't know how large companies operate. And in order to complement that is where I get people like John. I have some of the most incredible list of angel investors. In fact, you just saw Rajan speak. I have some incredible people from SoftBank, Adobe, NASDAQ, Credit Suisse, McKinsey, etc., etc., where all of these people come together and really become one of the most important pillars through which I can bounce off a lot of my ideas, because I make a gazillion mistakes being a first-time entrepreneur, and I don't know the right way of doing things. And this is where, if I get the right kind of people who are advising us, and this is my angel investor list, I have an advisory board list. Again, I have 2 professors from MIT, the CTO of PayPal, the CTO of NetApp, who used to be the CTO of Symantec also, the chief security officer of Cisco. In fact, he now sits on my board of directors also. Some of the most incredibly talented people who can really complement the inexperience that I have of how do you build and scale into large companies. As Rajan said, how do you build something of scale? And that's the reason why, building product, building SaaS becomes so very crucial. And the reason I'm showing all of this to you is also from a perspective of understanding that, look, at one side, when you're a 29-year-old who doesn't know how to build the companies, you get these people on board. The other handicap that I would have, we've done reasonably well in India, but now that we are expanding out of India, we're in the US, we're in Singapore, we're in India, we've not got any experience of those markets which are there. So how do you get the best experience of those markets? Really try to get best of these people who have been there, done that in those markets. For example, the CTO of PayPal, right? He's one of those people who goes ahead and very often is one of my key advisory people on any decisions based on the technology that we should use. And he's somebody who sees scale like very few people on the planet. So people like that become very, very important in my technology decisions. John Stewart becomes very, very important for my cybersecurity decisions, or the roadmap of the product, or where this needs to go to, because he's been for 2 decades with Cisco as their lead of cybersecurity. And as a CEO, frankly, who better than John Chambers to actually guide me, because he was the CEO of Cisco for 25 years. And why am I saying this to you is this is underlying the importance of the right kind of people who can back you. The odds of you making foolish decisions come down. You still make them, but the odds come down because you can just pick up the phone and talk to the relevant people. And that's very, very important, because the problem with a lot of smart people is they can actually give you advice on any side of the business which is there. But I will only go to the CTO of PayPal or CTO of NetApp to ask them about technology. I will not ask them about how do you build a P&L. I have the ex-CFO of Flipkart as my angel investor, and I will ask him about stat audits and the regulatory compliances and things around that. Michael Siegel helps me with my entire scoring model of how things happen. He's been at MIT for the last 30 years. So asking the right people and then asking them the right questions become extremely important of what and how things are. And
Hey,
basis on
Saket, can you make it full screen? Some
again.
people are facing difficulty to view it. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. This is the moment I go to full screen, I think the screen sharing goes away. But I really wanted to come back to the pillars of making sure that what I'm trying to do. What are the key areas of focus? One, which I spoke to you about, are the key things is the employees that you're on board, or your team, because that's what makes all the difference in the world. Because at the end, that's where rubber hits the ground. The second is the set of people who you can advise from, who are your sounding board, who are vested in the success of your company, and really become one of the key people who can help you see through difficult times. I just had a advisory board, I just had a town hall 4 days back from John Chambers, and again, he's seen through 5 such, I would not say such, but global pandemics and global recessions. And that really becomes extremely crucial to learn from all of those experiences and try to come together. So get the right people, get the right set of investors. And I cannot emphasize enough on the right set of investors. We had like term sheets from 6 very, very large VC firms, but when say John was investing into us, we said, look, we want to go with John because that's far greater in value than the money he brings on the table in terms of his experience. Similarly, for angel investors, I actually had a very, very long list of people who wanted to invest into us. I can say, and it's an arrogant thing to say, they are handpicked because they picked me, frankly. But on the other side, as Rajan said, as even Padmaja said in the beginning of the session, it's really a marriage on both the sides. Both the sides, the investors and the startup, should feel honored, privileged to be helping each other. And it's never a one-way street where one party feels we won and the other party feels that we got a bad deal, which is there. So for me, again, boiling it down to people, boiling it down to right set of investors that you can back yourself with, and then all of that enables to the most important piece in a startup, which is its customers. So we've got 200 customers. We work with some very, very large organizations around the world. I'm not going to get into that because I see my time is up. But these 3 pillars, if you have a laser focus on, I think it can be a recipe for success. It's still early for me to say we are successful. We've been growing very fast. I think, in my understanding, at a stage where we are as a Series A funded company, we are one of the highest valued startups of India. Doesn't talk too much about us, but only talks about how small the ecosystem today is of the cybersecurity startup ecosystem in India. But the good news is, with events like this, with DSCI helping us, I think we are really onto something where India can hopefully become the next Israel, where we get some incredible startups coming out. So I know we need to spend 5 minutes on Q&A. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back. Sonam, can you hear me? Did I break off?
Yes.
Okay.
No, you're absolutely fine and visible.
Okay.
If anybody has any question for Mr. Modi, please raise your hand and we can bring you on the screen.
Yeah. You probably want to call me Saket and not Mr. Modi, because it has a lot of different meanings these days. So yeah.
Sure. I think some people are asking for your presentation.
Yeah, the presentation I have is again a company presentation. Happy to share it. There's no problems at all. It had fairly public information, so no problems. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think, Saket, we can take up the questions in the town hall at the end.
Yeah.
We will break for the networking now. So in case somebody wants to interact with Saket, feel free to interact with him in the social lounge. And thank you so much for your sessions today, Saket. That was really helpful. And I'm sure
Thank you.
people really want to interact with you in the social lounge.
Certainly. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, DSAI, for the opportunity.
Thanks.
Thank you.